Now then, moving right along here, as you're probably aware, last night Barack Obama had his State of the Union speech, and he got up there and he basically yelled and ranted and raved about China and Iran and Israel and taxing the rich, which is a very, very popular topic. And I know it's it's sort of a traditional Democratic thing. We're going to soak the rich to pay for the bills of the government. And the rich are out there saying, we're already paying way too much in taxes. We got to soak the poor. And look at all those half of Americans who never pay any income tax anyway because they're on starvation wages. And it goes back and forth. And they basically keep us divided with each other over who should pay the taxes, when the real issue is that we are all taxed way too much for the amount of care that we get back from the government. I mean, we pay taxes for good schools, good hospitals, good roads, good infrastructure, that kind of a thing. Not to pour $100 trillion in instant wealth all over Wall Street so they can buy back the fraudulent mortgage-backed securities and stay out of jail. We don't pay taxes to just keep pouring more money all over Israel. And Israel got a little late Hanukkah present from Obama during the speech last night. And we certainly don't pay all this money in taxes to fund all these wars on all these countries whose only crime seems to have been that they don't like private central banking. And so we're going to take this wonderful Federal Reserve system that has destroyed the economy of the United States of America. And by the way, have you noticed that before the Federal Reserve, we didn't have world wars? And we're going to take this system and we're going to force it down the throats of the rest of the world at the point of a bayonet. That's what they're spending our tax money on that. So Obama's out there screaming, tax the rich, and the Democrats are going, yes, let's tax the rich. And the reality is, we're all of us, rich and poor, young and old, black and white, men and women, we're all paying way too much in taxes for the services that we get. We're not getting health care, we're not getting education, we've got crappy roads, we've got crappy infrastructure. We're paying all this money out, and we're getting really nothing of any value back, except a lot of speechification. And that's really not, it's certainly not worth the money that we're paying into the system on that. So Obama got up there and he's stressing the U.S. allegiance to Israel and saying basically, you know, we're ironclad commitment to Israel's security and has the closest military cooperation between our two countries in history, which Obama is basically saying Israel tells the United States who to go kill, and the United States sends your kids to go out and kill whoever Israel wants dead. Iraq, Afghanistan, now Iran. That's how it works. That's what they mean by an ironclad bond. And I'm one of those people who thinks that Israel should either fight its own wars and take care of its own security. They are, after all, a nuclear-armed nation. Or they should learn how to get along with their neighbors. And I think pretty much the whole world would be better off if Israel started getting along with their neighbors and started living in the 21st century instead of still believing that the world operates like those Old Testament kingdoms they read about in those parchments they find in the desert. So Obama basically went out and proved that, you know, he's Israel's houseboy again. And basically committed to granting extensions of $3.8 billion in loan guarantees to Israel for another 3 years, while homeless veterans are sleeping in the streets and our American infrastructure is crumbling. Your tax money goes out the door to Israel. No government can serve two masters, and a government that serves Israel cannot, does not, and will not serve the American people. A friend to Israel is no friend of America. And right now, as we head into this election season, America needs leaders who will put America first, second, and third. And Mr. Obama, you just failed that test. Now, Obama was out there using the State of the Union speech to warn Iran to change its course on its nuclear ambitions, okay? Well, that's kind of a little hard for them to do. They cannot give up building nuclear weapons that they're not building. They cannot surrender nuclear weapons they don't have. We saw this same exact dog and pony show leading up to the invasion of Iraq. They lied to us then, they're lying to us now, and they hope you are either dumb enough or just too afraid of them to stand up and say, look, you lied before and you're lying again. Now, Iran is building a nuclear power station. And because they signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, they are allowed to have a nuclear power station. The United States signed that treaty as well, which means the United States says Iran is allowed to have a nuclear power station. It's Israel that wants Iran to give up their nuclear power station. Now, the IAEA, because Iran has signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, the IAEA is in there inspecting all the time. Contrary to Mr. Santorum's ranting and raving, Iran is not concealing any of its facilities from inspectors. The inspectors are there all the time. And outside of the laptop Odeth, which appears to be fraud planted with the MEK, a known terrorist group, to hand to the United States to say, see, Iran is being bad. Outside of that laptop and its highly questionable documents. Remember the yellow cake documents from Iraq? Same deal. Outside of that, the IAEA has confirmed that all Iran has is a nuclear power station, medical isotopes, and various other industrial uses of radioactive materials, which they're allowed to have. Under Article 4 of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, the United States is obligated to assist Iran in building their power station. And if the U.S. was in compliance with its own treaty obligations, if it was meeting its international obligations, there'd be no question that Iran's power station is nothing more than a power station. Because if you're in there laying the foundations and helping to solder the pipes and do the wiring and everything, they can't hide something like, a giant underground weapons lab from you if you're in there helping to pour the cement. If the U.S. was really worried about a weapons lab, they should go in there and help Iran finish the power station. Then there's no question that it's just a power station. But the reality is, it is the United States that is in violation of its treaty and international obligations under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. First, by refusing to honor Article 4, and second, by using the threat of force to coerce Iran to surrender their rights under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. The United States is legally in the wrong here. Obama is legally in the wrong here. Every candidate standing up there and screaming about Iran has got to go back to the using kerosene lanterns is in the wrong. Read your Constitution. Okay. We'll be back after these commercials. And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And as I was about to say before into the commercial break, read your Constitution. Under the Constitution, obligations to treaties are the highest law of the land. They take precedent over any other internal laws Congress or the President might make. It is imperative in modern diplomatic relationships that when you sign a treaty, when you make an agreement with another nation, that agreement be kept. It is considered a very serious matter when a nation simply walks away from its treaty obligations. Now, both Iran and the United States signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, which grants to Iran the right to build power stations and have medical isotopes and industrial uses of radioactive material, and more to the point, obligates the United States to assist Iran in the construction and utilization of peaceful uses of nuclear power. So the United States is in violation of its treaty obligations. And Obama is in violation of the treaty obligations. This is a very serious matter in international relations. Now, these accusations that Iran is building nuclear weapons underneath their peaceful nuclear facilities is coming primarily from Israel, which in 1981 bombed another power station in Iraq, at Osirak, under the same claim that Iraq was building nuclear weapons in a hidden laboratory under the power station. Now, following the invasion of Iraq, experts from the International Atomic Energy Agency carried out a full inspection of the wreckage, and they found no evidence of any kind of clandestine weapons development. It was a power station, and that's all it was. To the best of anybody's knowledge, the only known weapons manufacturing plant hidden under a reactor is the not quite as clandestine as they'd like to think weapons lab hidden underneath Israel's reactor at Dimona. Israel is batting zero at correctly identifying weapons labs in other nations, and we should not be letting them take the lead with regard to Iran. We all need to go back and remember, we were tricked into war with Iraq on this same claim of clandestine nuclear weapons. Fool me once. Now, the United Nations and even the Obama administration have repeatedly requested that Israel signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, and Israel keeps refusing, and Israel keeps refusing inspections. This is a severe embarrassment for the United States of America because under U.S. law, the U.S. federal government is not allowed to be giving your tax money to any nation in possession of nuclear weapons technology that has not signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty and allowed inspections. So not only is Obama in violation of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty in his attitude toward Iran, but in continuing to offer these loan guarantees and funding to Israel, while Israel is in possession of nuclear weapons technology and refusing to sign the NPT and refusing inspections, then Obama is in violation of the Symington Amendment to the Foreign Appropriations Act and the Glenn Act. This is all criminal. The United States is in the wrong here, not Iran, and we need to keep that in mind. Now, they're talking about this Iran oil embargo. Yes, that will teach them. Actually, you want to know how well that's working out? It's working out great for Iran, and terrible for you, and terrible for the people of Europe. The International Monetary Fund is already forecasting that this imposed oil ban is going to drive up oil prices by 30% in the United States and in Europe. So whatever you're paying for your fuel now, whatever you're paying for gas or heating oil or diesel or kerosene, it's going to go up by 1/3 because of this little oil embargo that was done to please little tiny Israel. Is this having an effect on Iran? Yeah. Actually, their business is booming. Their foreign trade has gone up. Because what they're doing is they're selling all their oil now to Russia and India and China. And here's a good one for you. China's already leased 2 new supertankers to bring the additional oil to China. They're basically going to buy crude oil from Iran. They're going to refine it. Then they're going to sell it back to Europe at a high markup. And meanwhile, over in Europe, their refineries, which can't get crude oil directly from Iran, are already planning to shut down. This is an unmitigated disaster. China's going to be making buku bucks off of your gas tanks so that we can act like, we're going to have an effect on Iran. Iran's laughing to the bank already. This is an absolute Charlie Foxtrot. It's going to wreck the already fragile economy of the United States and the European Union. China's going to be making buku bucks, acting as intermediary, refining Iranian oil and shipping it back to Europe, and Europe's going to have to buy it. They can't exist without oil. All right, we're going to take a break. And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. So we're talking about Iran. We're talking about these sanctions. We're talking about the fact the sanctions are not working, and they're not going to work. First of all, you cannot make Iran surrender nuclear weapons they do not have. We went down this same road of nonsense with Iraq. Second, we have this growing section of the globe called the dollar exclusion zone. These are all these countries that are fed up with U.S. game playing, and they're not transacting business using dollars anymore. And more countries are joining them more and more rapidly. And they're all doing business with Iran in their own currencies. Rubles, rupees, whatever that's going on there. And they're doing business with Iran, and Iran's doing business with them. That's the path to peace. You make deals. You don't make war, you make deals. It's commerce, trade. So the sanctions, the IMF is saying we can expect to see 30% increase in fuel costs in the United States and the European Union, which means anything that is manufactured with or transported by petroleum products is also going to see a major increase in costs. And our economies simply cannot absorb any more load than they already have. They're risking a major financial crash pursuing this nonsense. When you back into a buzzsaw, you do not sit down harder. And yet, with the awareness that this oil embargo is going to trash the U.S. and European economies, with the full awareness that Iran is actually making more money selling off to all these other countries that don't want to go through the dollar, with the awareness that China is going to make a profit buying raw petroleum from Iran, refining it and selling it back to Europe to get around the embargo, what does the United States do? Do they abandon a failed policy? Heck no, they go in even further. The U.S. ambassador to Israel, Daniel Shapiro, has informed the Knesset that the United States is going to intensify the sanctions on Iran. It's not working at all. Let's do more of it. You know, we just wanged the ship of state against an iceberg. Let's back up and have another go at it and see if that makes everything better. This is the stupidity that permeates the halls of government in Washington, D.C. It's amazing.